The year was 2020. Wait a second, that's last year. Let's just say 2030, shall we? Okay, so the year is 2030, and you look at the TV and you think, hey, these two robots look so cool. I wonder what my country my robot comes from. And so, you start salvaging your own pieces to try create your own real steel boxing robot. But you have to think all the necessary attributes to make your robot stand out. Today, I'm going to be ranking some real steel robots, judging on how well they represent the country, how well the design is, and whether they play fairly in the real steel boxing league. But first, I have to go through some rules. Since there were overall 28 robots participating in this ranking, I had to use the help of Google spreadsheets in order to fully rank these robots. Normally, I give the robot a score out of 5 on how well they perform. For example, if a robot has 5 out of 5 in design, then that means obviously they look good, and if they have 1 out of 5 of a design, that means they look weird. The scores overall add up to 15, and I use that in order to help me rank these robots. For this ranking, I had to pretend that the robots actually existed in order to get a full honest opinion. Also, there are a few robots that actually appeared in the Real Steel movie, and in terms of the moveset, I'll be taking canon from there. The robots that did not appear in the movies, I'll take their inspirational movesets from the iOS game. And without further ado, I say we should just get straight into a ranking, or most of the video will be taken up with me dabbling on. So we start off with the most ugliest design out of all the other Real Steel robots. At least all of them have something going for them, but Metro is just a garbage heap just thrown together. And what country does he come from? Oh wait, the United Kingdom, Great Britain. But when you think of Great Britain, what do you think? Queen Elizabeth II's tea, ignite the fire? But no, none of that is represented, and instead you get a junk heap representing Britain. Just, what the hell? If you look at Metro's design, you'll notice that he has a huge hammer, and bringing weapons to a boxing ring is very illegal, and that's an easy foul. If anything, Metro should just run back to the scrapyard where he came from. Other than being gorgeously shiny, there's nothing really going on with Gridlock's design. It's just a robot with a planet on his chest. At least Metro was interesting to an extent. Gridlock never captured my attention. And apparently, he's from Switzerland. I mean, look at the Switzerland flag, yeah? Then look at Gridlock. Gridlock just makes me feel that I'm watching a bot from, I don't know, the Republic of Congo? In the Real Steel movie, while Gridlock plays by the rules, which is fortunate enough, his punches were just so weak that he got his head flattened to a pancake. The only thing I really liked about Fat Boy was his design, as it was just as hilariously obvious as the robot's name. And even though Fat Boy originates from the USA, you're going to find that most of these robots originate from America. It doesn't really give me much America vibes. But hey, I wonder whether this moveset is legal. Wait a minute. That's not boxing. That's wrestling. I'm sure there's a Real Steel wrestling somewhere, right? Aquabot is a weird one. I quite like its design because it's very sea-based, but it doesn't really signify anything about its home country, Finland. He is the only Real Steel robot to originate from Finland, and unfortunately, Aquabot is a dirty player too. Gambit hails from Las Vegas in the USA, but Gambit's design doesn't show anything about what Las Vegas is known for, and that's gambling. In fact, Gambit's overall design makes me think he's more of a basketball player than a robot that comes from Las Vegas. Midas, when you look at his design, it has a pretty Roman-like aesthetic to him. However, that means that he's very unfitting to come from the USA. If he has a Roman-like design, then I kind of think of him to come from Italy or Greece. In the Real Steel Championships, he's best known for using illegal moves as his main tactics. So it's a good thing that he normally hides in the Crash Palace. For Axelrod, I had to give him the benefit of the doubt. The Real Steel Wikipedia page tells us that he has the French blood color scheme. But while researching for this video, I showed a picture of Axelrod's to one of my friends, who'd been to France much more than I had, and she told me that Axelrod's color scheme is not the classic French color scheme. If only Axelrod's design managed to capture the essence of France, then his design would have been a nice waistcoat, a nice face mask, and a dagger. Oh, wait a second, that's the Team Fortress 2 spy. Cardinal Chaos is already unoriginal as is, with the only original parts of him being his awesome name. Looking at the design aspect, Cardinal Chaos looks more Japanish, but apparently Cardinal Chaos comes from the USA. Apparently, according to the Real Steel Wiki, Cardinal Chaos is an upgraded version of Noisy Boy. But I mean, in the Real Steel movies, Noisy Boy fought with honor and dignity. Cardinal Chaos just does what he wants. America, you're gonna get sued for this. Apart from an amazing design, there's nothing really captivating about Fiend. Fiend may originate from China, but he doesn't really give me a Chinese feeling. Also, not to mention, instead of hands, he gets replaced with spiked drill-like weapons. But obviously, you won't bring drills to a boxing match now, would you? That'll be just cheating. Although Abandon is my favorite Real Steel robot because of, well, bias, I can't deny that he does have some flaws. I mean, look at my boy Abandon. He's so goddamn thick. And not to mention, he has quite the boring color scheme. It's just a dark navy blue, and it's to fit the ice cold theme, even though it should be a lighter blue to really signify that. Although his design doesn't have anything to represent the country he comes from, on the bright side, at least he plays the game properly, unlike most of the robots on this list so far. I placed Bluebot higher than Abandon due to the reason that his title, the Electric Blue Brawler, at least fits with his color scheme. But that color scheme does nothing to help the country he comes from, that being Brazil. Oh yeah, and this guy cheats too. See a recurring theme here? Albino has a top-notch design, but it doesn't really signify anything about Shomu's history. Albino says fair game to most other robots, and from this robot on, most of the robots play the game properly. Danger Zone! I'm sorry, what is Danger Zone? Are these his eyes? Or are these his eyes? And why does he have such a realistic face? Why does he do that disturbing walk then puts his hands up, tell kids to cross the road, and then salutes you? Does Danger Zone have schizophrenia? Oh wait a second, he can't have, he's a robot. So Danger Zone does that. And he also represents one of Britain's most darkest times, World War II, as noticed by his design standpoint being based off an actual fighter jet. However, that unfortunately makes him unoriginal, because there just happens to be two other robots that are military based. Luckily, obviously Danger Zone being raised in Britain, he knows how to fight like a gentleman, and he doesn't use any form of cheating. I think I'm glad he has the disturbing design at the end of the day.
Crimson Carnage.
Though Crimson Carnage's theme tune is a huge banger, I unfortunately cannot place him higher because we're not ranking these robots by how good the theme tune sounds, and we're ranking them instead of how well they represent the country. Crimson Carnage's design doesn't have anything to write home about him. His design is just essentially drill sergeant from Skylanders, but humanoid. And despite originating from Ukraine, Crimson Carnage doesn't give me any feeling about Ukraine. Also, Crimson Carnage, what's with the mace? Why do you have a mace in one of your hands? Blacktop originated from the USA and was first the mascot of a biker gang, until the biker gang saw an opportunity to turn their mascot into an actual boxer. And so we did that. While Blacktop certainly has the aesthetics of a biker, he doesn't appear in the WRB League in the Real Steel movie, only appearing in one scene where he fights against Atom. And as we all perfectly know, biker gangs don't tend to stick by the rules.
Blackjack.
Although he comes from China, Blackjack feels more like he comes from the USA and Las Vegas, unlike another robot who we saw previously. Blackjack certainly captures the essence of a robot that'll come out of a gambling station. And despite Blackjack having weird circle-shaped fists, on the bright side at least they don't rotate while they try to attack another robot. So, it's legal. Looking at Holojack's design, it is clearly obvious that Holojack clearly represents the holiday of Halloween. And even though Holojack comes from the USA, Halloween isn't just a holiday spent in USA, it's also a holiday spent worldwide basically. Not to mention that Holojack also sort of cheats using his spiked weapons rotating while attacking an enemy. God damn it, most of these robots are cheaters. Also, the creators of Holojack is bound to get sued anytime soon, because the creators of Blackjack also has Jack in their name, and so does Holojack. This may be a bit of an odd choice, but Zeus is only number 11 in the 28 robots in this ranking video. Zeus may have an intimidating design which strikes fear into his opponents. Zeus comes from Russia, and Zeus doesn't really have anything going for him that represents him as a Russian robot, let alone the fact that his name is Zeus, which is the name of a Greek god. And since he's designed as a WRB robot, he naturally doesn't cheat, but he gives his opponents quite the hard time. In short, Zeus is basically Billy Osterman from $1 Million Baby, but just an emotionless robot. Nitro hails from Japan, which is arguably very fitting forced design. Unfortunately, this robot is easily let down due to his wheel hands being able to rotate, causing extra damage to the other player. These robots and their rotating weapons. Oh.
Ambush.
Oddly and strangely enough, Ambush's design does make him feel like a USA bot. One of his main titles is the retro superhero, and as we all know, two of the most beloved comic companies, DC and Marvel, both hail from, of course, America. So I guess that's a nice nod to the both of them, but keep in mind that in the Real Steel movie, Ambush got destroyed by a bull. What an embarrassment.
Six shooter.
While I'm not a huge fan of this guy's design, it does at least bring out the feeling of America back in its Wild West ages. That simple factor is why 6-shooter is brought up that high into the list. But if you remember the Real Steel movie, he tends to get a bit cocky, and then he got knocked out by Atom. Shogun in the Real Steel League is known to be the first samurai bot, and naturally this gives me Japan vibes, unlike another robot previously. And what boosts Shogun so high on this list is that he fights with honor and dignity, just like what a samurai should do.
Sarge.
And just like that, I'm already forgetting the nightmares I had with Danger Zone. Sarge, like the latter robot, is a military-based robot, but this time based around in the USA, and goddamn does he show that properly. If you look at Sarge's chest, you can see a star symbol. This represents the Star Forces in the United States of America. But compared to another military-style robot, Sarge unfortunately just couldn't compare.
Adam.
Now we have the mascot of Real Steel, the huge fan favorite, Atom. This guy has such a unique design, and it brings its own charm. And while at first glance, Atom doesn't seem to represent anything from the USA, after being chosen as the moral winner of this fight between him and Zeus. Zeus was the actual winner, but he got booed off stage. Atom was offered to be the people's champion, and Max and Charlie Kenton, the owners of Atom, obviously accepted. This brings out a whole new memorability for Atom, not to mention that he uses his small size to his advantage to take down his enemies. Nice one.
Noisy boy.
Hey look, another fan favorite, Noisy Boy. Noisy Boy has an astounding design. His body is covered full of LED lights that light up symbols that scream his home out, Japan. And his moveset is just as worthy as his amazing design. This, ladies and gentlemen, is how to make a military-style robot. BioWar hails from Ukraine, but BioWar's design makes him look like that if he's a machine coming out from a video game franchise Fallout. Because of BioWar's amazing post-apocalyptic design, he obviously references Chernobyl, one of the worst accidents in power plant's history. And Chernobyl is a part of Ukraine history, so BioWar brings the best in that, which is coming from a guy who knows little about the country. What's annoying about BioWar is the fact that he uses Gatling gun-like machine to dispatch his enemies, which is kind of cheating. But looking upon his moveset in the Real Steel iOS game, and it tells me that BioWar doesn't always use it. So that's why he is in my top 3.
Twin Cities.
Twin Cities hail from the USA, and Twin Cities has a really unique design, with having two heads and loads of streamlights representing an actual city. And being a WRB robot, naturally, he fights in a fair manner. Twin Cities is one hell of a unique robot. Unfortunately, he has one tiny flaw that is keeping him from the top, and that's the fact that if he repeatedly punches with just one hand, it's going to expose his weakness.
Here's tackle.
Okay, a bit of a weird one to end this list, but he's the only robot on this countdown that scored an overall 15 out of 15. Tackle hails from the USA, and he's supposed to represent the national game of football. A game that I consider mediocre. Despite my unpopular opinion on football, Tackle actually does look like a genuine football player. Even though for some reason his head reminds me of Stringer from Hero Factory. Tackle also does the basics of boxing really well, with using no form of cheating whatsoever. I mean, look at his special moves. Sadly, just like that, we're at the end of our Real Steel road trip. I had so much fun reviewing these 28 robots and seeing whether they fit well in the world of boxing. Till then, I'll see you next time.